Night Shift Security Guard, a new encounter. The story begins with our protagonist, Jake, starting his night shift as a security guard at the old hospital. He's a skeptic, never believing in the supernatural, but he's been warned about the strange in the desolate heart of Pine Valley. An abandoned hospital loomed over the landscape, a silent sentinel of the past. Its walls, once pristine, were now marred by the relentless march of time, and its windows, like hollow eyes, peered into the darkness. The locals whispered of the place, of the spirits that haunted its halls, and of the strange occurrences that seemed to plague it. It was a place of fear, a place of mystery, and a place that was about to welcome a new visitor. Jake, a night shift security guard, was new to Pine Valley. He was a man of logic, a man who had never given much credence to the supernatural, but he was also a man who needed a job, and the old hospital, despite its reputation, offered a steady paycheck. As he pulled up to the hospital on his first night, he couldn't help but feel a shiver run down his spine. The wind howled through the broken windows, a sound that sent chills down the spines of even the bravest souls. His first few hours were uneventful, filled with the monotony of routine checks and the eerie silence that seemed to permeate the hospital. But as the night wore on, Jake began to notice things that couldn't be explained away. Doors would creak open on their own, and he'd hear footsteps echoing in the halls, only to find no one there when he investigated. It was as if the hospital itself was alive, watching him with unseen eyes. Around midnight, Jake decided to take a break in the old nurse's lounge. He poured himself a cup of coffee, trying to shake off the feeling of being watched. Suddenly, the lights flickered, and the room grew cold. Jake's breath caught in his throat as he saw a figure standing in the doorway. It was a woman in a tattered nurse's uniform, her face pale and her eyes hollow. "Who's there?" Jake called out, his voice wavering. The figure didn't answer. It just stood there, staring at him. Feeling a surge of courage, Jake stood up to approach the figure. As he got closer, he realized it wasn't a person at all, but a ghostly apparition. The nurse's image began to flicker, like an old television screen losing signal. The apparition reached out to him, her hand passing through his arm. Jake felt a chill run through him, unlike anything he'd ever experienced. He stumbled backward, his heart pounding in his chest. As quickly as it appeared, the apparition vanished, leaving Jake alone in the cold, empty room. Determined to find an explanation, Jake decided to investigate the hospital's history. He discovered that the nurse he'd seen was Emily, a dedicated caregiver who had died in the hospital during a mysterious outbreak decades ago. Jake became obsessed with Emily's story. He learned that many patients had died under similar circumstances, and the hospital was closed due to the overwhelming number of deaths. As the nights went on, Jake encountered Emily's spirit more frequently. Each time, she seemed to be trying to communicate something, her gestures desperate and pleading. Jake reached out to a local medium, Sarah, who agreed to help him communicate with Emily. During a séance in the hospital's abandoned chapel, Sarah made contact with Emily. Through Sarah, Emily revealed that she and the other spirits were trapped, unable to move on because of a dark presence that had taken root in the hospital. The dark presence, a malevolent entity that had been drawn to the hospital by the suffering and death, was feeding on the trapped spirits, growing stronger with each passing year. Jake and Sarah decided to confront the entity and free the spirits. They performed a ritual in the hospital's central ward where the entity was strongest. As they began the ritual, the hospital seemed to come alive with malevolent energy. Shadows danced on the walls, and a chilling wind blew through the halls. Jake and Sarah held their ground, reciting the incantations and pouring sacred water into the hospital's foundation. The entity fought back, its presence manifesting as a dark, swirling vortex in the center of the ward. With a final, desperate effort, Jake and Sarah completed the ritual. The vortex exploded in a burst of light, and the hospital seemed to exhale as if releasing a long-held breath. The spirits, including Emily, were free. They appeared one last time, their forms glowing with a soft, peaceful light. They thanked Jake and Sarah before vanishing, moving on to the afterlife. The hospital, once a place of fear and sorrow, now stood empty, its dark past finally laid to rest. Jake, forever changed by his experience, continued to work as a security guard, but with a newfound respect for the supernatural. He and Sarah stayed in touch, bonded by their shared experience. As the sun rose on a new day, Jake left the hospital for the last time. He looked back at the old building, now just another relic of the past. He knew that the world was full of mysteries, full of unseen forces that shaped the course of human events, and he knew that he would never look at the shadows the same way again. If you're intrigued by the supernatural and the unexplained, subscribe to our channel for more spine-chilling tales. Don't miss out on the next episode where we explore another haunted legend. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this story, and leave a comment with your thoughts or your own experiences with the supernatural. Remember, the world is full of mysteries waiting to be unraveled, and we're just getting started. Stay tuned, and don't forget to turn on notifications so you don't miss a single episode. Until next time, keep the lights on and be wary of the shadows.